I'm Vinnie Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments. You know what we do on Court TV. Gavel-to-gavel coverage of trials, day in and day out, day after day, week after week, month after month. And some of these trials are just a little bit bigger, a little bit more high profile, and some might argue a little more important than the others, although I believe every victim in every case is important. But in terms of how that verdict impacts people, not just in that community, but around the country. And today we started one of those trials. It's a case involving 3 men accused of the murder of a man named Ahmaud Arbery. And there's Ahmaud Arbery. He was running through a neighborhood. Now, he was followed, pursued. We know that's a fact. It's not in dispute. I've seen the body cam videos. I've heard the voice of the defendants in this case say what they were doing. There were 3 men in 2 pickup trucks. Those 3 men, Greg McMichael, Travis McMichael, and Roddy Bryant. Take a look at them. These are the 3 defendants. They've been charged with murder. They're facing the rest of their lives in prison without the possibility of parole. That could happen. Now, the 2 on the left are related. It's father-son. The son is all the way to the left. He's the one who shot and killed Ahmaud Arbery. The one in the middle is his father, used to work in law enforcement, was retired at the time. The third is a neighbor. I don't know how well they knew each other before all of this or after all of this, but that's Roddy Bryant. He is the one who recorded the video of what happened that day. So this trial began today because a trial begins in the process of jury selection, okay? Jury selection is significant. It's important. Many attorneys argue it's the most important part of the case. And that began today. But anytime a trial like this starts, you wonder, what is it going to be like? How is this the reaction in the community? What is the scene going to be like at the courthouse? Because that is important as well, especially when you're picking a jury and they're coming in and out of the courtroom and they live in that area. This is a trial that is happening where the alleged crime took place. Brunswick, Georgia, Glynn County, Georgia. Let me bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae, who joins us live tonight from Brunswick. Julia, great to see you. Set the scene for us, first of all, for those of us not down in Glynn County, those of us not at the courthouse like you are. Describe the scene for us tonight.
Vinnie, you cannot pass this area blocks wide without noticing that something is happening here. Across from the Glynn County Courthouse in this grassy area that they call Media Row, there are a number of white tents and trucks and people who are all here to record what is going to happen both outside and inside of this courtroom. But there's also the people who have come here to say, we stand with Ahmaud Arbery's family. They were bussed in over the weekend from across the country, from many states. They've had rallies, and you hear chanting, and you've heard prayer vigils. You see there the attorneys for the Ahmaud Arbery's family. There in the middle is the father of Ahmaud Arbery, Marcus Arbery, and also justice coalitions who have come here from Washington, D.C. and other places. So that has been the presence that we see outside of this courthouse, where they are continually making sure that people know that they are here for the family and the family feels surrounded. So you get that feel here outside of the courthouse. You also see the law enforcement presence. They are patrolling, making sure things stay peaceful, making sure people know that they are here to help them, and whatever they need, they are here to assist. Again, those prayers that have been going on, that's right in front of where the entrance to the courthouse is, but there's a distance that the judge has ordered to keep people not right at the doors or in any of the hallways or the ingress and egress of this courthouse. But you definitely feel the presence of people who are outside of this courthouse, and they plan to do so for the entirety of this trial.
And there was a rally yesterday at the courthouse.
There was a Justice for Ahmaud Arbery rally. It was a couple of blocks away at the Cultural Center at the mural that was painted in honor of Ahmaud Arbery. That, again, was that those same groups, that was their real first night there. You see there the Transformative Justice Coalition. They say this trial is really the American justice system on trial, and a reason that they need to be here. They've called it an Emmett Till moment in the times that we've interviewed them. And we also heard from a pastor who was out in front of the courthouse today doing one of those vigils. Here's what Pastor Thompson had to say.
Our hope for this case is twofold. The first is that we hope for justice. We believe that it is the court's responsibility to figure out exactly what happened and what needs to happen as a result. And so we want that process to be fair, we want it to be transparent, and we want it to be just. And the second thing that we hope for is that the process surrounding the trial would be peaceful and that people would be able to make their voice heard, but to do that with respect and with unity.
Keep hearing the word community. You can get the sense that it's important for people to surround this community, the ones who will be here when all of the buses are gone and the presence is gone. But they believe that justice for Ahmaud Arbery is going to benefit the community. That's what we're hearing from these groups who have found it important to be here.
Julia, let me ask you, you were in Minneapolis for the trial of Derek Chauvin, the man who murdered George Floyd. How would you compare what happened in Minneapolis, a big city, versus the smaller town or city that you're in, Southeast Georgia, for in day one here of the trial for the three men accused of murdering Ahmaud Arbery?
It's a bit of a different mood being in Brunswick, Georgia versus Minneapolis, Minnesota. When we saw the jury selection start during the trial for the murder of George Floyd, we saw different groups that were taking over streets, and it was much louder in terms of what they were demanding. They were also looking at a courthouse that looked like a fortress, that had a National Guard tank in front of it. It might have added to why they felt their voices need to be even more loud in front of that courthouse. In front of this one, there's a feel of patience. Let's see this justice system play out. Let's hold people accountable. Let's make sure there's transparency. But you get more of a sense of this is this community versus Minneapolis, Minnesota, where you felt that the people there were more talking to a national stage. So there does seem to be a difference in the mood in these two places, but definitely that same belief that this is an important case, not only for justice for the alleged victim in the case, but also for the larger scheme of social justice.
Okay, today, day one, jury selection began. What's the latest tonight as to what happened inside the courtroom today?
The headline today is that we did not get any jurors who passed through. All of them who were individually questioned were dismissed. There was a pool of 20 who were taken from the larger pool of 600 who showed up today at an off-site location. The 20 were brought into a courtroom, much like this one, and they were questioned generally, and then they were questioned one by one. And we got through 12 of them, but each of them, those 12, were either dismissed for cause by the court or by agreement by the party. So no peremptories have been used yet, but all 12 of those jurors who have been individually questioned will not be coming back to sit on this jury pool.
Okay, now, proposed voir dire questions, and that was a bit of an argument back and forth with the prosecution defense, and the state was objecting to some questions that the defense wanted to ask prospective jurors. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there were objections on both sides. The defense didn't want the state to talk about the death penalty in their opening questions to this jury, but the state very specifically didn't want certain questions about race being asked of these potential jurors. Here's Assistant District Attorney Linda Denikowski objecting to some of those defense questions.
So there's a propounding of a number of questions where they want the juror to say, I guess, that, oh yeah, if somebody does this, I automatically think they're a racist. Those sorts of questions, I think, are inappropriate, especially for voir dire. Number 23, white people who use the N-word are racist.
That was one of the questions. Here are some of the other ones. She wanted to know if they thought, if these potential jurors, or the defense rather, wanted to know if anyone thought that people who oppose Black Lives Matter as far as a movement is racist. Also, the defense wanted to ask, do you agree with this statement? This case is important in revealing racism in our community. Another question, the Confederate flag and the old Georgia flag that had a Confederate battle emblem on it. Is it a racist statement? Do you believe that someone who uses it, does that make them racist? The state objected to all of these questions, but ultimately the judge said that they can talk about Black Lives Matter to these jurors, can also talk about the Confederate flag movement, but they withdrew that question, that last one that you heard Donikowski mention about using a racial slur. If that makes someone racist, the defense said they would not go forward with that question because of the objection.
Okay, things are underway. Julie Janae down in Brunswick will speak a little bit later on in the program, get some more information from you. But right now, let's get some reaction to what Julia told us about today. Let's bring in our think tank joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia. Criminal defense attorney, former president of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys, Lawrence Zimmerman is with us. Also in Atlanta, Georgia, Judge Gino Brogdon. And in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, former prosecutor, former assistant state attorney, counsel for Ben Crump Law, and trial attorney Sue Ann Robinson is with us. Great to see everyone tonight. Gino, we have by phone right now. We'll try to get that picture up in just a little bit. Let me start here. Let me put up on the screen something that Julie Janae just told us about. These defense voir dire questions, or as they say in some parts of the country, voir dire. Do you think anyone who opposes Black Lives Matter is a racist? Do you agree with this statement? This case is important in revealing racism in our community. The Confederate flag and the old Georgia state flag is a racist statement. Do you believe this makes a person a racist? All right, Lawrence Zimmerman, I'll begin with you. Why does the defense think these are important questions? Are they important questions? Are they fair questions in voir dire for this trial?
Well, the prosecution's making this out to be a case based on the accused's being racist. And that's why they chased after Mr. Arbery, tracked him down, and then shot him. So if they're going to talk about it being racism, the defense, in order to get a fair trial, has every right to inquire of jurors what they think in this case, whether these certain issues that are going to come up are actually make them racist. And that's why they're very important. They're trying to ask it and frame it the best way possible. Certainly, the one about the N-word seems I'm glad they withdrew that one. I think that's a little obvious. But these are, I think, three important questions, and it's very helpful for their clients to get a fair trial when the allegation is based on racism.
Sue Ann Robinson, your thoughts about these voir dire questions for the jury?
I think it would be smarter for the defense to toe their narrative that this case is supposedly nothing to do with race and nothing to do with color, as opposed to sliding in these questions. I think it could be a sword and a shield because it's putting that narrative into the jury's mind and giving them a motive right on a platter from the voir dire, from the start of the case. So in terms of the defense, I think it's a bad move for them to start that narrative right in jury selection. I also don't think that an exposure and an awareness of racism generally, or even social justice for that matter, should disqualify any juror from participating in the case. I think the best thing to be done is exactly what the prosecutor was doing, which is empowering the jury, telling them what their job is, explaining what they're going to be doing so that they're comfortable enough to raise their cards, as they were doing today in voir dire, and be honest and forthright of whether or not they feel they can be a fair and impartial juror in this particular case. But I think saying that, oh, this case isn't about race, but then asking for the jury to be asked questions about racism is, obviously not compatible.
All right. Judge Gino Brogdon, I need the perspective from the bench on this. If a juror comes in and answers that question, do you think anyone who opposes Black Lives Matter is a racist? If someone says yes, is that a reason to disqualify that juror? If someone says no, is that a reason to disqualify the juror? And I say disqualify, I mean a disqualification by the judge.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Keep in mind that when lawyers are asking these kind of questions to jurors, they're trying to do a couple of things. One, they're trying to set the stage for what the conversation may be in the trial. They're also trying to get the jurors who are bad for them to identify themselves. So you pick a hot issue, this big pink elephant in the room called race, and you ask questions around it so that those people who feel very strongly about it will raise their hand or make a comment, and you can identify people who will be led in their verdict by race or the issues that race kind of drags us to. Now, someone being a racist does not disqualify folks from serving on a jury. A juror must be committed to following the law and following the judge's instructions and basing their verdict on the evidence. Now, that's the clinical approach, but we know this is a human process. I think it is very smart for the defense to ask questions about race. Now,
but Judge, it gets more specific. I want to put up on the screen, this is a still image of the front of the McMichaels pickup that they were driving that day. Travis was driving it. If you look at the front license plate has the old flag of the state of Georgia, which includes the seal on the left and then the old Confederate flag on the right. That was the official flag of the state of Georgia until, I believe, 2001. It's on the front of the McMichaels vehicle. It's something that this jury may see. So how about that question? The Confederate flag, the old Georgia state flag, is a racist statement. Do you believe this makes a person racist? If they say yes, is that a reason, in light of the specific facts of this case, to dismiss that juror?
No, absolutely not. I think if your views on race prevent you from doing what the judge will instruct you to do, what the law is, or your views on race prevent you from properly and carefully considering the evidence, then yes, being a racist could make you not fit to serve on a jury. But this, when you look at what the prosecution and the defense's questions are, they're not simply to figure out whether people are being fair. They're introducing evidence. For example, that question about the flag, they know that when the jurors look at that photograph, they're going to see that those stars and bars, which are a symbol of the South not dying and the South coming back. As a defense lawyer and a prosecutor, you want to know whether people are still fighting the Civil War. And someone who's got that kind of emblem on the front of their truck, the jurors are going to see that, and you want to know whether folks agree with that kind of thing or they don't. It's about selecting jurors, not really necessarily as to this particular emblem, whether they can be fair. If their views interfere with being able to do what the judge asked them to do and evaluating the evidence, then their fitness is at issue.
Lord Zimmerman, I saw you reacting.
No, hey, Judge, I agree with Judge Brogdon over there. I mean, look, you can't run from the bad facts of the case. So these are going to be introduced, and they're the issues. So start it in jury selection and deselect your jurors and figure out who's going to be good for you and who's not going to be good for you. I mean, it is what it is. Look, I don't think the judge should allow that license plate in as evidence. I don't think it's relevant to the case.
They're going to see it, though, but they're going to see it. If the body cam comes in, they may very well see it, Lawrence.
They may see it, but there's ways you could get that redacted. And you know, the defense is working on that, obviously. I don't think the judge has ruled on it. I don't think it's relevant to the case, but I'll move on. These are good issues to ask. You can't run from the bad facts. You really need to get it out there and get the jury thinking and discussing these issues. And you're creating a tribe for later on that's going to be back in a jury room deliberating on this case. And you want all these things out there. And one juror says one thing and other one's never heard this before. They start having a discussion. That's the whole point of jury selection. Get the discussion going and figure out who you have, put the issues out there, frame it the way you can, and select or deselect, however you want to look at it. And like Judge Brogdon said, some people, the bad jurors will reveal themselves.
And speaking of the process, Sue Ann, we're here day one, jury selection. You know, judges like Judge Brogdon want a fair and impartial jury, but the litigants, right, the prosecution, the defense, they're not necessarily looking for fair and impartial jurors. They're looking for jurors that they think would help their case, right? I mean, their goal is much different than the judges at this point.
I hear you. And, you know, as a trial lawyer who strongly believes in the art of voir dire, I just think that the questions that that the defense is asking to ask the prospective jurors are lazy. I think it takes away the art of actually talking to the jury panel, interacting with them, and getting them, as my co-guest said, having a discussion, saying, hey, do you think the Confederate flag means that you're racist? Is pre-trying the case if they're going to see, if there's a possibility that they're going to see the Confederate flag, you are pre-trying your case. And so your job as a trial attorney is to come up with a creative way. Ask if they have Confederate flags, or what bumper stickers do they have on their car, or what type of license plates do they have, what periodicals do they read, what podcasts do they listen to. That is the art of jury selection. I feel like because there is a broader issue in the case, because it was a touch point for social justice, the defense just feels like they can be lazy and just say, hey, if you think that this is racist, or somebody has any exposure to Black Lives Matter or social justice issues, we don't want them on the jury. When that might not necessarily help them. That could be a qualified juror that's going to actually be able to look at the facts of the case rigorously and apply the law perfectly fairly.
All right.
Well,
I'll give you the final word, Lawrence. Go ahead.
No, it's not a final word, but the difference in Georgia is you have to ask a general question to the panel first, and then you get to do follow-up. So they will probably have follow-up questions, but you have to frame it in a certain way that certain judges will only let you do it as a statement and a question, and then you get to come later and ask a follow-up once they raise their hand saying yes or no.
All
and
right.
Then you get your discussion.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Think Tank staying with us the whole hour, folks. Let's bring back in Julie Janae, who is down at the courthouse. What's coming up tomorrow down in Brunswick?
Well, Vinnie, there were 20 that came in today. 12 of those were individually questioned and dismissed. So there's still 8 who were told to come back tomorrow morning, and they will be individually questioned to see if they will either pass or get stricken like the other ones. And then another pool of 20 will come to be questioned. So we'll see if we get a juror actually seated tomorrow.
All right, so far 0 for 12. We need 12, and then the alternates as well. Julie Janae, thanks so much. We'll talk again. When we come back, folks, we've got the latest in the case involving the murder, homicide of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. Gabby Petito's parents speaking out and really talking about an issue of broken trust. It's fascinating to hear them. We'll hear that when we return. All right, there's the scene down at the Laundrie House. You have some protesters that are continuing to show up by that there's the dirty laundries. And, you know, you've got artists, pictures, people step in. It's a high-profile case. We get it. Some people, better call Bertolino instead of better call Saul. And some people take advantage of situations in these high-profile cases and show up for whatever reason. Some people are legitimately protesting the actions of the people from inside that home. And I don't know what the motives are of these folks, but again, it puts the parents of Brian Laundrie kind of in the spotlight. And there was also reports over the weekend that he was mowing the lawn and tore down one of the protest signs that was at the memorial for Gabby Petito because it referenced his own daughter. So, you know, they kind of get thrust into all of it, but I think in this case, a little different because of the actions of the parents. And I think people are thinking about the initial reaction of the parents of Brian Laundrie to the disappearance of Gabby Petito. Before she was recovered, and this became a homicide investigation, there was a missing young woman whose parents were looking for her. And these parents obviously had some information, but sat on it and said nothing. And did not respond to the parents of Gabby Petito. And I think that's why a lot of people were angry with those parents. Now, flip it over. The parents of Gabby Petito have made a tearful plea for Brian Laundrie now to turn himself into authorities. He's the man on the run being sought for questioning in connection with Gabby's death and homicide. Nicole and Jim Schmidt told Australia's 60 Minutes they misjudged their daughter's fiancé.
Every time he would come over, he was polite. he talked with our other children as well. They got to know him and they liked him. So
Draw them pictures and stuff. He would read books to my little one at night before bed. So he just seemed like a nice guy.
Gabby's mom and stepfather say they worried about Gabby's cross-country trip, but they thought that Brian Laundrie would keep her safe.
I worried. I told her to be careful, be safe, make sure to be aware of your surroundings. Don't trust everybody. But I felt safe because she was with Brian, and I felt like she would be okay. I thought he would take care of her.
Brian Laundrie named in a federal arrest warrant that alleges he used Gabby's debit card. He's considered a person of interest, but has not been charged with her death. Let's bring back in our think tank. Still with us tonight, Lawrence Zimmerman, Judge Gino Brogdon, and Sue Ann Robinson. Sue Ann, I look at this and I think of broken trust. The parents thought that he was a good guy. There were no indications otherwise. This is like a classic setup that you see in every Lifetime movie, Sue Ann. The boyfriend is just like the greatest guy in the world. He does everything, puts on the show in front of the parents. And then we saw what happened on the side of the road in Utah.
Right, absolutely. And you know what? The parents are now searching for answers in every single interaction they ever had with Brian, in every single thing he ever said, in anything their daughter ever said about him, probably in her social media posts, just combing everything to see, were there signs? Could there have been something they could have done to stop this? And that's a very hard place to be in your grieving process. They are almost trying to find a way to kind of say, did we do something wrong here? And that's just a tough spot to be in for parents or for anyone who's lost someone close to them, especially in a situation where there's still answers out there. Justice has not been served. They cannot find Brian Laundrie. So right now their focus is on finding him, obviously. And as you said, they made a plea to him on 60 Minutes in Australia. But, a lot of the focus and the energy is on the Laundries, on the parents, because everyone feels like they must have had some information to retain an attorney for their son at such an early stage.
Judge Gino Brogdon, is there any way legally to compel the parents to give a statement and to answer questions?
No, the parents will look good to cooperate in every way that they can. They're going to be under intense scrutiny. Now, the police, the authorities will want to talk to them and hope that they get the full cooperation, but the parents aren't under some legal obligation that's bigger than anyone else who either knows or is related to the person of interest. Now, the parents are under a lot of pressure here because folks say, well, if no one knows where your boy is, you know where he is. If no one knows what your boy was thinking, you know what your boy was thinking. And the brutal clarity of hindsight will haunt these parents. And not only Gabby's parents, but the Laundrie parents, because everybody's looking back on this saying, didn't I see something? Wasn't there something that should have stood out to me? And it's just a painful retrovision for everyone, particularly both sets of parents.
Lawrence Zimmerman, we go back to the beginning, that it seems that you can make the logical deduction that there was some conversation between Brian Laundrie and his parents that compelled them to get an attorney. That conversation, to me, potentially, no idea if it even happened or what was said, but potentially sounds like it could be some admission to something, okay? Is there any way that conversation somewhere down the road could be evidence in a trial?
Well, right. I guess we're really speculating what the conversation could have been about, but the fact that they got
a conversation that somehow indicates that he needed a lawyer, right? Something was said, something had to have been said for them to go and say, yeah, let's call a lawyer. But is a conversation between a parent and a child that results in the hiring of an attorney, is that a privileged conversation? Is there some protection for that conversation, or is that something that could potentially be used in a court of law?
Well, there's no privilege between a parent and a child when it comes to like attorney-client privilege. So whatever their conversation was would be admissible in court, and potentially the fact that they hired a lawyer for them. I mean, clearly, we've talked about this before. Yes, logically, I mean, he's the only suspect. It makes sense. I mean, she went away with him. He's like, if the mom's talking about she was worried about other people, he ends up being the wolf inside the hen house, presumably. So, we don't know the parents know. That's the problem. Who knows what he told them? Maybe he lied to them, and so we keep hearing about whether parents should be charged with obstruction. I think if the police had something to charge the parents with, I'm pretty confident they would have done that by now, because that would have given them some leverage on the parents and then find out where this kid is located at. They'd have already done it. They must not have enough to get a warrant. And remember, it's only probable cause they need to get a warrant for someone's arrest.
And again, at this point, no one has been charged. No one has been named a suspect. We're just looking at this investigation and all the legal issues potentially associated with it. Legal think tank staying with us, still ahead. On the docket tonight in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, accused of shooting 3 men and killing 2 during the riots, is less than a month away. Tonight, we break down the first shooting. Plus, Jussie Smollett set to stand trial next month for filing a false report regarding an alleged hate crime. This after charges were reinstated by a special prosecutor after being originally dropped by the DA. Tonight's 13th juror question: what should happen to Jussie Smollett and his case? Go to our Facebook pages and tell us what you think. On the docket tonight, the case against Kyle Rittenhouse, accused of shooting 3 people, killing 2 of them during the riots in Kenosha. I want to show you a video that we've shown you many times before. This is video of the second and third shooting by Kyle Rittenhouse. He's going down the street. There's a crowd behind him. He's going towards police who are at the end of the street. But as he's going, he's on the ground, approached, fires at 2 people, killing 1, injuring the other. Now, we've talked a lot about this video and the potential arguments that could be made for self-defense relative to this. But I think when you look at this video, you have to look at it in the context of what happened first, which was the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum. Okay, so there's an initial shooting. Then Kyle Rittenhouse ends up going down that street and is followed by this group of demonstrators and people that were there. So I want to take a look, a closer look at this first shooting. Joseph Rosenbaum is someone who Kyle Rittenhouse apparently had some interaction with during the course of the night. And then they confront each other, whichever way you want to look at it, in a parking lot. And there is some video. It's not clearly as clear as this. But let's break that down for you right now.
There are 2 videos of the Joseph Rosenbaum shooting. In the first, it's very difficult to see. This is Kyle Rittenhouse. Joseph Rosenbaum is here. They both move out of frame behind a car before gunshots erupt.
Ooh.
This is the second video from a different angle. From this angle, you can see Kyle Rittenhouse before shots are fired. And here, you can see Joseph Rosenbaum. But look closely to the far left, just beyond the lot. Look for a flash. Somebody discharges a weapon seconds before Kyle Rittenhouse then starts shooting. After the shooting, Rittenhouse walks around the black sedan, then seems to look down at Rosenbaum as he takes out his cell phone.
What's ironic about that is he said he was there to provide medical aid, but he doesn't provide medical aid to the person that he shot, Joseph Rosenbaum, at that time. Again, he makes a phone call and then leaves the area.
Well, the video of the shooting itself wasn't super clear. The aftermath of the shooting is almost too clear. I mean, you see what happened to Rosenbaum, and you see people trying to help. People, they don't know what to do.
Where, dude? Where? Where's the hole?
Where are you? Where? There, in his head!
Okay, let's bring back in our think tank and talk a little bit about this first shooting. Okay, Lawrence Zimmerman, from your perspective, what did you just see in that first video, and in what will it tell the jury?
I saw chaos, and the reason someone shouldn't be carrying a long gun around a crowd, but it was very, very hard for me to see. I can look at it both ways. Maybe he thought that guy, Rosenbaum, was chasing after him. There's a gunshot went off, and he thought his life was in danger, and he fired at him. But him not rendering aid and just leaving the scene certainly shows a guilty mind. I mean, that doesn't help the situation. If you're defending yourself, call 911 and wait on the scene for someone to come. You're in the right if you think you're justified. So I don't like the fact that he fled the scene while other people were rendering aid, and obviously he shot other people afterwards. So that doesn't look good for him at all.
Sue Ann Robinson.
I'm going to go ahead and say it since nobody else wants to say it. Where are Kyle Rittenhouse parents? Why does he not have a curfew? Why is he not at home eating dinner or doing his homework? Why is he on the street with an assault rifle? Since no one wants to discuss the big elephant in the room, which is he is a child running around the streets at night with an assault rifle. Some parents that need to be protested on, that need to be, something should be filed against them. Maybe Kyle's parents for allowing him to be outside at night doing something that he obviously should not be doing that led to the death and injury of other people. It's insane.
Judge Gino Brogdon, do you see a valid potential argument for self-defense on the first shooting here where he is in that parking lot?
Maybe. This video is helpful to both the prosecution and the defense. It's helpful to the prosecution mainly looking at his post-shooting conduct. To make a call and then flee, that's some indication that they can argue.
Well, let me ask you this, Judge. Does it help that when he gets to the end of the street, he tries to surrender himself to police?
Well, sure, that helps that he's cooperative with the police, but it doesn't erase the acts that happened before he surrendered himself. This kid running around with a long gun, as depicted on this video, indicates a certain amount of chaos that's going to get pro-prosecution jurors excited, or at least leaning toward some kind of conviction, because...
Well, let me ask you one other question, Judge.
Yes, sir.
One of the victims that was shot, who survived, also had a gun. Victim number 3, Gage Grosskreutz, who will testify at trial, was shot by Kyle Rittenhouse, but he too had a gun in his hand.
Well, it makes it more difficult in his case, in terms of him having a gun, lends itself to Rittenhouse's lawyers trying to make this some kind of shootout or a potential shootout or some kind of element of self-defense. The first guy did not have a gun, I believe, and so it makes it much more difficult to say that you are defending yourself. The video depicts him as being the only guy running around with a long gun, and that hurts him. The video is foggy enough, and the flash of another shot, a defense lawyer.
Well, that's going to be a big part of it. Let's put it up on the screen. This is Zeminski, who's holding up a gun, and at that point, we have that video. We could put it up. Very big part of the defense is that there's a gunshot that goes off just before Kyle Rittenhouse fires his gun, and right there is spotlighted there is where that's taking place. And you can see if you go to the left of where that spotlight is, that's where Rittenhouse and Rosenbaum are. And then there's a gun going off, which would be, I guess, behind where Rosenbaum and Rittenhouse are. So how much of that third person with the gun firing it just before Rittenhouse fires it, how big of a factor is that? 0 to 10. I'm going to go around the horn. Lawrence Zimmerman, 0 to 10. How big of a factor is that?
9.
9. Judge?
9.
Sue Ann?
You know how I feel, Vinny. Kyle doesn't need to be out there. And after the fact, there's people chasing him because they've just observed him shoot someone and run away. So him saying that he's defending himself is absolutely, I mean, he can say he's defending himself till the day is long. But
So
we have
are
to
you
remember there's
saying
also
5?
a defense of others.
Are you saying
No,
3?
I'm saying 0.
0.
I'm
0.
saying the point is Kyle needs to go home. Kyle should be at home eating dinner.
All right.
He should be at home.
Absolutely. And folks, by the way, folks, I got to let you know that Court TV has an in-depth special on all of this. It's called Chaos in Kenosha, the Kyle Rittenhouse case. That was a clip from the show. It is an amazing inside look at this case. It's Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on your front row seat to justice. And you need to watch it because look what's happening on November 1st. The trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, right here on your front row seat to justice. That's all coming up right here. When we come back, guess who else is going to trial next month? Jussie Smollett. Your reaction to that when we return.
You're filming us, right?
Yeah, this is all. If you want, if it's in his house.
They're filming you.
You're being audio and
Like audio. I guess when they didn't know they were walking into. I don't want to be filmed. Okay, so can we turn it off?
Yeah, you're giving us permission to shut it off.
All right, that's the body cam footage of Jussie Smollett, the singer, actor, entertainer, who originally was charged, and those charges against him for filing a false report alleging a hate crime. Those charges were dismissed by the original DA. Then a special prosecutor came in and reinstated the charges. And now we've got a trial that the judge has set for next month, believe it or not. So Jussie Smollett on trial in Illinois. Your reaction, we begin with our 13th juror comment of the day coming to us from Peter, who said, arrested for lying and setting up this major issue. He nearly brought Chicago into a huge racial tyranny. It's bad enough Chicago has a crisis with thugs and gangs. He wanted to be noticed for the wrong reasons. Well, he got noticed and should pay the price. A judge will decide. All right, Sue Ann Robinson, what should happen or what should we do with Jussie Smollett and his case?
They're doing too much. I'm just gonna, if nobody else wants to say it, I'm gonna say it. They're doing too much. They need to keep this same energy with the Karens that call 911 on people of color wrongfully. I don't see any of them being prosecuted. I don't see any of them going on trial. They cry, they say they're sorry, and we all move on. If they want to press charges against people who are falsely calling the police and wasting resources, do it equally. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to do this to Jussie Smollett and drag it out and use all these state resources, keep that same energy for the Karens.
Judge Gino Brogdon, your thoughts?
Well, I agree, but I want to add something to it. I think if he broke the law in this way, he ought to be prosecuted, period. But I do agree that that same enthusiasm, that prosecutorial enthusiasm, ought to be levied against everybody who breaks the law in this way. This is a special way to break the law because he called into play the very white hot, maybe black hot issue of race. And at a time when this could have been throwing a match on gasoline on top of gunpowder, which makes it even more kind of sickening that he is alleged to have done this. Should he be prosecuted? Absolutely. Should it be across the board for people similarly situated? Absolutely.
Lawrence Zimmerman, I'll give you the final word here. You have about 20 seconds, sir. Oh, we lost Lawrence. We lost Lawrence. I was reading his mind. I think he was upset. I think he was very upset with all this. Anyway, the trial's actually happening, believe it or not, at the end of next month, and we'll continue to track it for you right here on your front row seat to justice. Big thank you to our guests, Lawrence Zimmerman, who we lost contact with at the end, but Judge Gino Brogdon and Sue Ann Robinson as well. Great to see you, and especially great that we got the judge off the phone and on video, because we always got to check out the shirt. Awesome job, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Yes,
all right.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. A lot more straight ahead. In Brunswick, Georgia, day one of the murder trial for the three men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery, the young jogger who was followed by three men in two pickup trucks, then shot and killed in broad daylight. Court TV cameras in the courtroom, and we are live from Glynn County with the latest.
It's been a long first day of jury selection for these potential jurors who have been answering questions from both sides about their opinions of the case and the three defendants. Some of the people inside said that they already have an opinion of the men accused, will have where they stand, and who's been dismissed.
In Northport, Florida, the search for Brian Laundrie continues. What distinctive physical features should investigators and the public be looking for?
We need positive stuff to come from the tragedy that happened. All right? We can't let her name be taken in vain.
In tonight's unsolved case file in Sarasota, Florida, 14-year-old Jabez Spann goes missing in September of 2017. Months later, his remains are recovered, but no one is held responsible. Tonight, his parents join us in their continued quest for answers and for justice.
It takes a certain kind of monster to kill a child anyways. And then the silent code, I'm not talking, this is a child, that's a whole different ballpark. Ain't no snitching rules in that.
In Volusia County, Florida, officers pursue a fleeing suspect until he ends up caught in the river. We take a look at the body cam footage with our law enforcement experts.
You got caught. It's over. You're not going to get out of this. You're going to jail. You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. You might as well start it now instead of wasting your damn breath out here.
In Baltimore, Maryland, a driver goes missing, but then 2 days later, his car is stopped with two other people in it and no sign of the driver. Then police question and release the two people who had the car, and the driver's wife is now wondering, where is my husband?
This isn't like him at all. He would never go missing for this amount of time and not tell anyone.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on